Most people know that Medic is the strongest class in Team Fortress 2, but today I want to talk about a somewhat overlooked part of his kit. To be more specific, I want to focus on one thing that will greatly increase your effectiveness if you just do it. Critical overheals. But before I get to the critical part, let me just talk about Overheal. Let me start with the extreme basics for those of you who are new. Medics heal at a base rate of 24 health per second, but this healing does not stop once the heal target is at full health. Instead, the medigun overheals the target up to 150% of their base health. Once the medic stops healing the target, Overheal will start to slowly decay until the patient falls back down to their base maximum health. A full buff takes 15 seconds to decay if the target takes no damage, regardless of the numerical amount. So an overhealed heavy gets 150 extra health and a scout gets just 60, but both buffs will decay in 15 seconds. This mechanic is nothing new in FPS games, however the way in which Overheal is given in TF2 stands out. Firstly, instead of picking up health spawns on the ground to get Overheal like in most other games that I know about, in TF2 a teammate must distribute out Overheal. A skilled medic player can overheal multiple teammates before a team fight, resulting in the total health of the team to be increased greatly. The overheal that a medic can provide might seem infinite when compared to the obviously finite health pickups in Quake clones, but in reality it is limited by the maximum amount of overheal each patient can receive, as well as the fact that the overheals decay fully after 15 seconds or less. Assuming that a medic is always healing at the base rate of 24 health per second, keeping more than just 2 or 3 players overhealed would be nearly impossible, because at a certain point the amount of hit points decaying will outpace the amount of hit points you can heal, and of course players can also lose their buff from taking damage as well. If you can only provide buffs at 24 health per second, you are better off healing players who are missing health because that health will not decay. However, as you may know, healing is not capped at 24 health per second. Medic's highest heal rate is actually 72 health per second, or 3 times the base rate. Well, with the quick fix it's actually higher, but I'm going to ignore that item until the end of this video. Trust me, I didn't forget about the good old quick fix. It would be very out of character. Believe me, I am looking forward to talking about it, saving the best for last if you will. If you didn't know, if a heal target just spawned or has not taken damage within the last 15 seconds, the medigun will heal the target at a whopping 72 health per second. This mechanic is referred to as critical heals, or crit heals for short. If you are able to recognize that a player has crit heals, it may be worth giving them a crit buff before they go and take damage. Now, this isn't to say that crit healing teammates should always be your #1 priority. Deciding to continue healing a combat class who is in a really strong position, but will likely die if you stop healing them, can be a big mistake. But if your heal target is already nearly full health and not in immediate danger, then it is probably worth changing heal targets to triple your heal rate for a few seconds. In my opinion, you don't really need to have insanely good mechanics to be a fantastic medic player. Sure, cross-map Crusader crossbows would require some good mechanics, and having solid movement fundamentals will allow a medic to escape slippery situations more often than a player with bad mechanics, but simple game sense is honestly all you need to be pretty good at medic. Simply being aware of crit heals, paying attention, and dishing out crit buffs is going to hugely increase your impact if you're not doing this already. Having a higher healing output will allow your team to win more fights and maintain more map control, and thus win more games. So spend less time healing an already fully buffed heavy, and instead consider healing the fresh respawns who just took the teleporter to the front lines first. Now, some people watching this might be skeptical that simply focusing on crit overhealing teammates will hugely improve your effectiveness just like that. While it is true that overheal health is inherently less valuable than regular health because it decays, it is certainly not 3 times less valuable. Overheal on tankier classes such as Heavy, Soldier, Pyro, and Demo increase the amount of shots it takes to kill them. For example, 2 grenades are enough to kill most classes at their base health, but it takes 3 to kill a buff Soldier, Demo, and Pyro. A quickscope headshot or fully charged body shot will kill 5 out of the 9 classes in the game, but all 5 will survive if they recently got a full overheal. Furthermore, classes like Demo and Soldier can use an overheal as a way to get free mobility. So, while it is possible for an overheal to go to waste if the heal target takes no damage for 15 seconds, the disposable nature of buffs do not mean that they are not effective. I can't tell you how many times an overheal has saved my life, but I can certainly show you some highlights in the background. If you are a viewer of my second channel, then you have probably heard me say, "Yo, can I get a buff?" about 100 times. Usually I'm saying this to a medic who is healing a fully buffed player and I'm standing there with a crit heal. Of course, the medic can't hear me because I have voice chat turned off, but medics should be keeping their head on a swivel looking for spies regardless of the situation, so keeping an eye out for teammates to give crit heals to should be second nature. Now, as I said at the start of the video, it isn't just the medic's job to ensure that everyone is getting crit healed. When you are playing, try to keep track of when you have not taken damage for over 10 seconds, and try to get a buff when you have crit heals. Some medic players complain about people spamming E to call for med, but I always just do this when I'm looking for a crit overheal. If your team's Crazy German is doing a good job of dishing out buffs, try and avoid peeking aggressively before he has time to overheal you. You don't want to take 3 damage from across the map and inadvertently increase the amount of time it takes to get a full overheal by a factor of 3. Lastly, this is a relatively uncommon thing, but it is worth pointing out that the Sticky Jumper and the Rocket Jumper don't deal any damage to the user, but they do in fact count as damage to reset your crit heal timer. So, while I would typically advise a Sticky Jumper demo or Trolldier to save a teleporter for another teammate, if it is level 3, it is worth taking just to keep your crit heals. And finally, I want to talk about the 2 mediguns that I have been conveniently ignoring because they function differently than stock. Let me just get this out of the way. I absolutely hate the vaccinator. That feels really good to say. I absolutely hate the vaccinator. I don't like playing with or against it. I shouldn't have to explain why I don't like playing against it, but playing with a vaccinator medic is less fun to me because the overheals are shit. Unless the vaccinator medic is an absolute god, which is almost never the case in my experience, the item is just straight up worse than the alternatives. Whether or not I think the item is better assuming skilled play is a topic I will save for a later date. If the vaccinator medic is good, then you really only benefit from its upside if you are the one getting pocketed. The vaccinator's slower buff speed means that overheal is way less viable, and it is only really used when there is actually nothing happening. In every other situation, it is more effective to use the bubbles to pocket 1 or 2 targets and ignore everyone else. I know I'm ignoring a lot of nuance here, something theory Y. I am simplifying for the sake of time here. The point is, good luck getting overhealed by a vaccinator medic. I've got more to say about this weapon, or, well, item. It's not really a weapon, but I'll save that for another day. Moving on to the quick fix. I actually love playing against quick fix medics. However, I usually don't like it when there is a quick fix Andy on my team, in part because the Uber is terrible, and of course because of its inferior overheal abilities. The quick fix overheal functions nearly identically to stock and Kritzkrieg, except the heal and overheal rate is 40% faster, the overheal is capped at 125% instead of 150%, and the overheal decays at the same rate, but its duration is effectively halved because the maximum amount of the buff is also half. There are a couple of takeaways here, but to sum it up, quick fix overheals are pretty shit. Well, the weapon is shit in general, but, like, getting a buff from a quick fix medic is better than nothing. It's nice to rocket jump and take no damage, but getting value from a buff is much more difficult. For instance, let's compare a sniper getting buffed by stock to one getting overhealed by the quick fix. Remember, a quickscope headshot deals 150 damage. The maximum quick fix buff on a light class such as sniper is 157. How long does it take for the sniper to be within one-shot range after the medic stops healing the sniper? Not very long. So the main reason why quick fix buffs are so terrible is because they do not keep a patient above critical health thresholds for nearly as long as stock and crits. This is just one example, but it demonstrates my point very well. If you were paying close attention to the B-roll in the previous section, many of the clips of me being saved by overheal resulted in me being super low health. The quick fix buff would not have saved me in many of these cases. The quick fix does get better when the number of players on the team decreases, but in any casual game that is full or near full, I would argue that there is never a reason to equip the quick fix in pregame when you have the time to build an actually useful uber charge. But I'm getting extremely off topic, so I'm going to end the video here before I spend another, 5 minutes rambling. Thank you for watching. Alright, they might actually pub push this. Maybe not. Oh my god, this engineer! Oh my god! Oh my god!